Hello, my beauties and beasties out there. DF here. Welcome to Beauties and Beasts, a podcast of all things Beauty and the Beast. I apologize for this episode's lateness, but I had to go to a wedding and then I had to sort out some drama at work. So yeah, I didn't get a chance to record until right now. February is Black History Month, the month in which we celebrate the accomplishments of people of African descent. Speaking of which, a small moment of silence for African-American historical figure Katherine Johnson, one of the main characters in the movie Hidden Figures, passed away recently at the age of 101. At least she lived long enough for her impact on history to be recognized. You will be missed, Katherine. But back to the topic at hand, while mainstream fairy tales in Western culture feature predominantly white characters, there was one animated series that changed things up with multicultural as well as feminist retellings of your favorite fairy tales. And this was the HBO series Happily Ever After, Fairy Tales for Every Child, all narrated by the late Robert Williams, the voice of Rafiki from The Lion King. From a Latina Cinderella to a Native American Snow White to a Chinese Red Riding Hood, this series showed that anyone can be the hero of their own story.
We all know it's a tale as old as time, 'cause we've heard it over and over again.
I'd like to thank my $5 plus patrons, Anime Guy 1101 and TyrannosaurusVenom. Thank you for your continuing support. You too can become a patron today by clicking the green button on the right-hand corner of the screen if you're listening on PodBean, the reward button if you're listening on the PodBean app, or if you're listening on YouTube, click on the link in the description below. Also, be sure to follow this podcast so you never miss an episode and can join in on live streams where you can make one-time donations in return for voice requests. Also, check out my merchandise on Redbubble under the name Disney Fanatic 23, that's Disney Fanatic 23, featuring fairy tale memorabilia as well as Pride and holiday merch. Speaking of Pride, congratulations to my good brony friends Magpie Pony and the Lost Narrator on their wedding. I'm so happy I was there to share your special day. I hope that your marriage lasts a really long time. You guys are the greatest. Happily Ever After, Fairy Tales for Every Child aired on HBO on and off from 1995 to 2000, consisting of 3 seasons and 39 episodes. I could talk about them all, but then this episode would be like hours long. So we'll focus on some of my favorites, mainly the episode featuring Beauty and the Beast. This series' take on the fairy tale of Beauty and the Beast aired on May 21st, 1995. Following the basic plotline of Madame de Beaumont's original tale, although set in an unspecified African country. Note that many of the settings of the fairy tales in this series take place in a kingdom far, far away, but sometimes it's not exactly specified which country this kingdom is based on. The story starts off with the widowed merchant who loves his children very much and spoils them rotten. In this version, he has 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. I must say, I rarely see a brother used in modern adaptations, so it's a very nice change. If you don't remember from the first episode of Beauties and Beasts detailing Madame de Beaumont's original tale, the merchant had 3 sons and 3 daughters. In this series version, the siblings are given actual names. The son, Tree, was given his name because he is big and strong, or rather, he stayed rooted to one spot, aka, he's lazy as frick. The oldest daughter is named Precious because father has so much love for her. Or rather, she has so much love for herself and all her beautiful clothes and jewels. Then, of course, there's Beauty. Like her French counterpart, she is as beautiful outside as she is inside. And despite the older siblings being self-centered, they actually aren't cruel to Beauty, which I like because they actually care about her and, like normal siblings, occasionally bicker. I never really liked how the sisters in the original tale were mean and jealous and actually tried to sabotage her relationship with the Beast. Then one day, the father's cargo ship carrying rare fabrics and spices is robbed by pirates, and his storehouse full of gold and silver is looted by bandits. The older siblings aren't really happy with the hard times they've fallen on, while Beauty tries to look on the bright side, at the fact that they weren't hurt in the fire. The merchant says he will go to his friends in the east to ask them for loans so that he can get back on his feet. Precious asks for a new expensive perfume for when he comes back, Tree asks for a new hammock because his is wearing through, while Beauty simply asks for a rose cutting for her garden, which the siblings laugh at. The merchant goes out on a camel and gets caught in a sandstorm before he can make it to the east, so he is forced to stop and wait it out. And when the storm clears up, he finds a mysterious castle in the middle of the desert. Seeing no one home, he helps himself to food and takes a nap. Again, why does this guy just walk into someone's home and start eating and making himself comfortable? He doesn't know if it's set out there for him. In the morning, the merchant sees a locked rose garden, sticks his hand through the gate, and plucks a rose for Beauty. And out comes the beast, who's like a cross between several African mammals, camel, rhino, lion. And the beast is about to kill the merchant for what he did, until the merchant explains that the rose is for his youngest daughter, Beauty. And the beast asks if this name suits her, and the merchant replies yes. And as you know, like in the original tale, the beast sends the merchant home, gives him 2 days to decide whether to come back and meet his fate, or send Beauty to take his place. And not even the siblings want her to go, but Beauty feels responsible for asking for the rose, and so convinces her father that this is her choice. Beauty is brought to the castle, and at first only hears the beast's voice, and is tended to by gargoyle-like servants. She is entranced by the wonders of the castle, but still, she locks the door to her room, just in case. She's not stupid. She's still in a strange man's home, no matter how fancy the place is. Yet when she wakes, the door is open, there is food, and a dress that has magically been brought to her. And she decides it's time that she met this mysterious beast. So in exploring, she stumbles upon his room, where the beast is singing and goofily practicing how to woo her. He sees her sneaking up and snarls, and he goes, "Admit that you're frightened and disgusted by my beastly body." And Beauty's like, "Well, of course you frightened me when you snarled at me like that. What did you expect?" Well, he definitely hadn't expected her to find him acting all funny and goofy, that's for sure. She suggests that they become friends, and over time, Beauty starts seeing that he's actually a very nice guy, feeding his animals and coming up with ways to make her laugh. And then one night, he proposes, and she just can't find the answer. And so he does so each night, and every night, she can either say yes or no. I mean, give her a break, dude. It's a pretty big decision. And though they've become amicable, and honestly, the representation of their relationship is very cute in this, Beauty still misses her family, although she doesn't resent the beast for having her imprisoned here. He lets her visit for 4 weeks and offers her 2 trunks to fill with gifts from his treasury for her family, and a ring to send her there and back. She comes home, her siblings are happy to see her, and she learns that her father is taken ill, and Precious and Tree have been waiting on him hand and foot. You know, it's probably a good thing this happened, because in a way, it's forced them to actually work, build some character. Beauty helps nurse Dad back to health, and he soon regains his riches from all the gifts that she's brought from the Beast Castle. But then, the day before she has to go back, Beauty reveals that she hadn't escaped and was only sent here for 4 weeks. The family says that she doesn't have to go back, but Beauty insists that the Beast is not bad and he's actually gentle and kind. Precious thinks that the Beast put a spell on her, and Tree reminds her that the Beast had nearly killed Dad over a rose, and had only not done it if Beauty had taken his place. Yo, what's so kind and gentle about that? I mean, he's not wrong. So Beauty stays an extra day, and sings about whether to stay or go before ultimately deciding to go. She finds the Beast lying in the garden, and she hadn't realized how much he had meant to her until now, and agrees to be his wife. After kissing him, he is turned into a human, Prince Koro, and he explains how a sorcerer had cursed him and it could only be broken if someone loved him without knowing about the spell. Seeing Beauty in shock, Koro asks if she still loves him, and she goes, "Well, just to be sure, let me hear you growl." Damn, girl. And so the 2 of them are married, Dad moves in, the siblings visit, and they all live happily ever after. Overall, pretty faithful adaptation. Just assimilated into a different setting. I like how this series shows that, considering fairy tale plotlines are very basic, they can take place anywhere and star anyone. And what I liked about this episode in particular is that it focused on the theme of choice between the ones you love and the people that you've grown up with all your life, and also love you. And that's a decision a lot of people will have to make at some point in their lives, choosing between family and their romantic partner. Or maybe just a friend. And this Beauty is kind-hearted like most other versions of Beauty, but she also has her own unique personality. She has her own agency and is not completely helpless. And this episode really emphasized how it became her choice to be with the Beast, not because she felt obligated to stay because of her promise. The show didn't just have multicultural themes, but feminist themes, especially in Season 3 with Robinita Hood and the Three Little Pigs and Rip Van Winkle. And sometimes the heroine was just made a lot more spunky, like when Thumbelina was voiced by Rosie Perez. Romance was still involved in most of these fairy tales, but that's okay because part of being a modern woman is choosing who you marry. Another Beauty and the Beast type fairy tale that was adapted into the series was The Frog Prince. You may recall episode 13 of Beauties and Beasts that I had done last Black History Month, detailing this fairy tale. You might want to take a look at that if you're not familiar with the original story of The Frog Prince. Before Princess Tiana, there was Princess Ebony, another black princess who also had to kiss a frog. Princess Ebony played by Cree Summer and the frog played by Sinbad. Though this version from HBO was more faithful to the original, spoiled princess and all, even the princess throwing the frog against the wall, but with a few minor changes. Like, this one showed how the princess was easily bored and she was looking for a friend and kind of wanted to be treated less of a princess, but still like the precious things. She was complex, you could say. And how the golden ball was a golden nugget ball, and the frog being a vegetarian was a nice touch. If you think about it, if a human was turned into a frog, would they want to eat flies? Actually, this series did this tale twice. The second time was in Season 3 with a frog princess. You recall back in episode 10 of Beauties and Beasts, the Pussycat Princess? I may have briefly mentioned this, but that episode and the Hungarian folktale The Pussycat Princess actually share some similarities. In The Frog Princess, there is a king who has 3 sons, and as they are playing mini-golf, the king thinks it's time that they all found wives to make them more princely, and that wherever their golf ball lands, the lady closest will be their wife. The youngest, Prince Gavin's ball, lands in the woods near a frog, and so there's a pretty awkward triple wedding. Then the king holds a competition to decide which couple is best to take the throne, by judging how well their wives cook and sew. Just saying, what kind of competition is that? Why would a queen have to know this stuff? The youngest prince thinks it's hopeless and doesn't think that he can win because frogs can't cook or sew. And then the frog, who can apparently talk and whose name is Lila, suggests that he try and do it because he has the right fingers for it. And the prince is like, but I'm a prince and a guy, and guys don't cook or sew. And she goes, hey, if a frog can talk and sing, then a prince can cook and sew. So with her guidance, he makes the king's favorite cake and mends his old coat, passing it off as his wife's work. And then there's the final competition where the couples are judged on how well they can dance. And with Lila leading the dance, they end up winning. The young prince is excited that he's going to be king, but then he's like, but then I'll have a frog for a queen. And Lila's like, I really thought you could learn to love me, but I guess I'm just a frog to you. And so heartbroken, she hops out the window. Then Prince Gavin starts missing her, realizing that despite her being a frog, he actually loves her because she was all supportive and they complement each other really well, and she had actually helped him to be less self-centered. So he actually goes out in the woods and pursues her all Psyche style, helping creatures in distress along the way, confesses his love to the wrong frog, but thank goodness that she was actually listening. They kiss, and she turns into a princess, and did I mention that she is black and he is white? Interracial couples for the win! Overall, Happily Ever After is a great series, shows that children, regardless of color or gender, can one day grow up to be the heroes of their own stories. Girls can be adventurous, guys can be sensitive, girls can be sporty, guys can cook, if they want to. We need more stories like that, fairy tale and non-fairy tale alike. Speaking of adventurous girls, next month, March, is Women's History Month, celebrating the accomplishments of women throughout history. And in honor of this month, I will be doing something a little different, and analyze some non-romantic fairy tales, starring female protagonists. Starting with Hansel and Gretel, which seems appropriate considering the new movie that's come out. If you like this podcast, follow it on PodBean, become a patron, and get access to exclusive bonus content. I will be starting a writing advice series for patrons only, and releasing a new excerpt for the novel that I'm working on. And stay tuned for the next live stream in March. Also, for my American listeners, remember that election day for the primaries is on March 3rd, so if you're 18, go out and vote. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, You gotta vote. We don't want a repeat of 2016 where someone won because people thought their vote didn't matter. I don't care whether you're Democrat or Republican, just don't vote for him. Honestly, Republicans, you can vote for someone else. You don't need him as your main candidate. Because I know a lot of you don't agree with him. I'm not saying who I'm voting for, I just don't want it to be him. Someone should get a frog princess to make that guy less self-centered. Guess it just goes to show you some people can't be changed for the better. Alright, until next time. Remember that true beauty comes from within, and sometimes you gotta kiss a lot of frogs before you meet your true love. Why does that idiom sound wrong somehow?